this presentation, I would like to present how so-called financial innovation brought about the financial imbalances that led to the subsequent financial crisis in Japan in the late 1980s and the United States in the 2000s. I thought this panel is about financial innovation and financial stability, so I prepared this one. So it's not related to the monetary policy per se, but in order to have a good monetary policy, you have to have a financial stability in the first place. In fact, a number of financial innovations introduced as a result of deregulation appeared to have played a big role in the late 1980s bubble in Japan. Under the designation of financial liberalization, deregulation sparks the arrival of new products at that time, such as CP and large time deposit with unregulated rates, which are common these days, but think about 20 years ago. It's quite a new. And these nourished the atmosphere of profit seeking through these financial innovations, or so-called financial technology products. So in fact, a bank's profits surged and their capital positions strengthened, as shown in this chart. This is something like this. This is the regional bank, and this is the major bank. So you see a sharp increase of the major bank up until 89. And the next slide. Consequently, the banks tapped capital markets to raise capital quite easily, and their leverage ratio declined. I say it is important, yes, declined dramatically from the around 1985 to 89. So in that sense, just looking at the banking sector's leverage ratio, it's not enough. And with this surge of profits, and also the loosened capital constraints through new equity issues, and the subsequent inflows of time deposit from large non-financial corporations, bank lending to real estate related sectors surged. This is something like this, and yes, and then you see small enterprises has a big surge. And partly compensating for the lackluster growth in lending to large non-financial corporations. So the main issue is that the banks are kind of in the disintermediation with respect to large corporations, and then they had to seek new clients in small enterprises and also the real estate markets. So, however, around 1986, signs of financial anomalies emerged, brought about by the innovation associated with the financial innovation. Here is the introduction of time deposit with liberalized interest rates, and actually this is backward. This is interest rates paid on the large time deposit, and this is the short-term prime lending rate. And you can see the anomalies here because the short-term prime lending rate is lower than the time deposit rate. So this is the most notable anomaly, which is the apparent no-risk arbitrage opportunity for large non-financial corporations. In 1985, bank became allowed to offer the large time deposit rates I explained to you, With no regulations on their rates, banks then offer short-term, large-time deposits to major non-financial corporations with rates higher than the corresponding time CP rates. Thus, large non-financial corporations, I say it again, could profit from raising funds by issuing CPs and depositing them in these unregulated large time deposits. So this is riskless, non-arbitrage opportunities. Moreover, anecdotal evidence also emerged to suggest that banks had loosened their lending standards. Some banks transferred their loan examination of function from their headquarters to the loan making divisions. Hence, the ratio of loan examination officers at the headquarters declined sharply in the 1980s, as shown in this chart. This is sharp decline, especially so in Citibank's rate. It's a sharp decline. And there's another anomaly, which is in the property markets. There are also signs of excessive optimism among investors, especially in property markets. This chart illustrates the price-to-rent ratio in residential property markets in Tokyo, based on quality-adjusted hedonic price and rent indexes of condominiums. I have to this number. So it's something like this. Sorry for it's something. It takes some time. This chart illustrates the price-rent ratio in Tokyo, and the ratio suggests from the around 23 here to around 40 just in 2 years, and then stayed somewhere there, and then shoot up again to 50. So it should be noted that this quality-adjusted price-rent ratio has only recently available. So at that time, at the time of the bubble, we didn't have a kind of reliable price-rent ratio here. So the point is that it is very important to have kind of the real-time data with respect to the anomalies in asset markets, including property markets. So it takes some time. But anyway, there are anomalies which are very big, and that really flags some problems. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Yes. So, when considering the Japanese experience, one cannot help noticing the similarities between the Japan's experience in the 1980s and that of the United States, triggered by the so-called subprime mortgage crisis. First, financial innovations were apparently responsible for the buildup of financial imbalances. Here, securitization was important. The financial sector earned substantially higher profits from originating and distributing these securitized products. In this way, banks' profits increased, and their capital market standing became more solid. Second, there were signs of financial anomalies and loose lending standards. For example, perhaps you might know the CDO squares. And the CDO squares are based on CDOs, which were in turn based on subprime mortgage pools. But they have sometimes had a very thick AAA tranches, even though their base assets are substantially risky. So my point is that maybe countering Mr. Ma's point that rating is not the solution. Rating may have a seriously kind of defects with respect to the risk, assessing the risk. And I should say it depends on the ability of the rating agency, but the counting on the rating agency as a kind of the neutral and also the kind of expert knowledge, it's not a good way to go. In addition, there were reports of so-called non-doc loans. So the loans without no documents, just ready to go. And especially in subprime mortgages, which is quite a big anomaly. And actually, this triggered the kind of the short sale in the subprime index market. Third, there seem to be signs of excessive optimism, at least in booming states in the United States. Although a semi-contemporaneous quality-adjusted house prices index were available in the United States, such as the FIO and the Case-Shiller index, unfortunately, there were no corresponding quality-adjusted rent data. I should say the new rent data, market rent data, which to gauge excessive investor optimism by calculating price-to-rent ratio. So the one point is that you have to have real-time information about both on the asset side and also the rent side. And in this sense, I think it is extremely important in this country to develop a house price index, which is recommended by the United Nations and the Eurostat and OECD and in other organizations, other international organizations. So, what lessons should we draw from these two episodes? The following 4 points are likely to be universally relevant, and especially so from the perspective of emerging markets like China. First, financial innovations often provide a fertile ground of financial excesses or imbalances. They may not be surprising, since innovations sometimes make old knowledge obsolete. We are told that, quote, this time is different, end quote, and that we should embrace these new ways of thinking. Often, these new ways of thinking disguise excessive optimism, so beware. Secondly, in the process of build-up of imbalances, there are often signs of anomalies. In the past, these anomalies are often ignored as being isolated and having no macro significance, or explained as rational choices. And actually, the economists are quite ingenious to explain almost everything, which is quite unusual. So in that sense, we should be very careful about the so-called explanations. I'm an economist, but I'm also the policy maker. So I have a kind of schizophrenic ideas in this respect. As a policy maker, I should be very careful about economists kind of presenting, and so including myself. Thirdly, timely information about excessive investor optimism is of utmost importance in this regard. The price-to-rent ratio, actually, quality-adjusted price-to-rent ratio in property markets are one indicator of investment sentiment. Thus, to have timely information about proper price-to-rent ratios is not only important for assessing the magnitude of financial imbalances, but also vital to communicate to the public. I think the communication policy is very important. This is especially communication policy with respect to the investors, the domestic and foreign, is utmost importance, which is a part of the central bank policy. In this respect, it is highly recommended, as I told you, that the price indexes should be constructed consistent with the global standard. And actually, I kind of perused the internet, the Chinese property prices, and I found somewhat kind of dubious indexes, but still it's better than nothing. But that index is terminated arbitrarily quite often at some point of time. And then this is my big problem to follow Chinese property markets. Maybe there are some good kind of attempts to do that, but which is not available at least for me. Fourth, if investors are excessively optimistic, a modest increase in capital requirements and the leverage restraints may not be sufficient to curb such unwarranted optimism. And when the price doubles in a few years, it is relatively easy to comply with seemingly stringent maximum loan-to-value requirements, since a property's assessed value increases in tandem with market prices. And if you look at the Chinese price data, which kind of fuzzy data, but I think the increase in Chinese property prices are extraordinary. So in that sense, simply using the so-called so-called leverage requirements or the loan-to-value ratio is not sufficient. So my point is, what about China? Be alert. The Chinese situation will be thoroughly discussed by my fellow panelists, but from the lessons of the past financial crisis, I can say one thing: be alert. There is ample evidence of the fact that when the total debt to GDP ratio increases rapidly, there is a growing danger of a deep financial crisis in the future. It may not be the crisis, but it may be a big problem. This chart shows that this is compiled by the economist of Geneva Institute. And this chart shows that China's total debt to GDP ratio has increased by 84% from 2008 to 2013. The regulator is often looking at the leverage ratio of only financial institutions. However, as Japanese experience showed, the leverage ratio of financial institutions often does not increase but rather declines in the build-up of financial imbalances. Thus, the leverage ratio of financial institutions may not be a good indicator of financial health. In that sense, the total debt to GDP ratio might be better. So it's better to look at the other anomalies in the national as well as the regional financial market. I think the regional financial market is very important to give you some kind of hunch of what is going on nationwide afterward. So my point is quite simple. With respect to the financial stability viewpoint, China is very close to the danger zone. So in that sense, be alert. And also at the same time, you have to think about the kind of trade-off between the restraints on lending, but at the same time to keep up the promise of high growth rate. So in that sense, that kind of trade-off is very difficult, but I think you can really hit the balance. I'm pretty much sure that I'm a former deputy governor, so my counterpart at PBOC would come up with the really innovative ideas to solve the problem. Thank you.